Hi, I'm Alexis Smith, and I am a everything. I do it all. Production supervisor, production manager, producer, woman of many hats. What got me into film? I feel like it's a love of film. I really liked doing theater in high school, but I was not an actor, and there are not many opportunities to do things that are kind of more, um, logic based in the creative field. And I found working in film kind of ticked a lot of those things. I make spreadsheets, but helping make movie magic. So not really sure what got me into it. I guess watching movies, really liking movies, wanting to know more about how they were made.
And did you
And
go to
then,
school did you study film or
yeah,
just jump right
I
in?
I did. I did study film. I went to NYU. And I will say that although there is a little cachet in the prestige of where you go, it's more important what you do when you're there. Finding like-minded people who are ready to create things is the most compelling way to use your time. I think just getting used to making things, getting used to being able to talk about your ideas in a room and figure out how to make them, pull them together and pull them through to fruition. I feel like you can be at the best institution and have completely checked out teachers and not find your group, and it can be a very lackluster experience. And then you can go to a community college and find a great teacher and some other makers and make a short and get it into festivals. And there's no one true way to do anything in this industry.
When you were going to school, did you look at like because you were in New York and there's so much production, did you work on productions or just you
Yeah.
were focused on school?
I was the opposite of what I'm saying right here. So, it is one thing to say it and another thing to do it. I was super ready to be not in school and I wanted to be out there doing things. And so I was constantly like I wanted to work on in the big leagues. So I was always trying to PA, pick up extra days as a production assistant. I was trying to intern. I lied a little bit about when I could start an internship and whether or not I could take school credit. I told the internship I could do school credit, and I told my school that I wasn't doing an internship. And then it turned out there was a lot of paperwork involved, and the company I was working for, was thrilled that I wasn't doing for credit. So it worked out well. For me, I was really focused, I guess. I decided for good, bad, and indifferent that I liked independent, like kind of more like the indie art house movies that are paid on credit cards, and a dream because I guess I don't like snacks. I'm not really sure why I felt like that was deeply important. It's part of the reason I went to New York instead of LA. School wise, there's a lot more opportunities in LA. But I said, no, Jim Jarmusch and black and white movies are made on the East Coast, and that's where I will go. And I did watch a lot more movies with subtitles than my USC counterparts. And so when I was looking for internships, I really looked at places that were small, up and coming, really felt like they were making a lot of things that were in festivals, that were really active, and ideally had a lot of women working there. And I say a lot because the companies I worked at usually had three people, so it was not a lot of people anyway. But one of the first internships I did was at a production company called Plum Pictures, and it was three producers and an assistant, and I loved it. I thought it was really great. I read a lot of scripts, I did a lot of coverage, I got to ask a lot of questions. They felt really lucky that I was doing any work for them, and they had nothing to give in return. So they were really gracious with their time when they had it. And yeah, I think that's where I liked the idea of like you take a project, you find the people, and you pull it all together.
Did you have an idea of what department? Like when I first started, I didn't go to film school and I had no idea. I just knew I wanted to work.
I did not leave film school and know anything about how to be on set. I didn't know how to use a walkie. I didn't know what different departments were. I didn't know anything. I felt like I didn't know anything, but I did know how to make a budget and how to edit on a film on a Steenback. which is something that no one has ever asked me in any interview ever. Can you edit on film? Yeah, I can. They don't care. No one wants that. Even editors don't want that. And so it was really interesting in terms of what I learned in film school was a lot about the creative process of what makes a movie. It's like kind of the art stylings of it, the production design, the cinematography, and then when you get your first job and you show up, no one wants to know any of that from you. They want you to go get their coffee and they want you to remember what to do and where to go and what different words mean that you've never heard before in your life. And they don't even know why you call it a honey wagon. Why is it called a honey wagon? But that's where the bathroom is. So it's like, I feel like a lot of those elements, it is about getting your first job. And that's the hardest part.
And when you got your very first job, like that moment, like if you went
Yeah.
back and think about it, because I can still remember it and it was a long
Yeah.
time ago. And the exact what you just described is exactly how I felt. I mean, didn't know what the language, I didn't know what a walkie-talkie was, nothing about it. And I
I
was
asked
one
when
of,
we were done for the day. That was a mistake. They're like, don't ask. You're done when you're done. And I was like, I'm never getting hired again.
but did
And
you
I wasn't
feel,
on that job.
did you feel, like like when you were nervous, like what did you bring to the set when you were, because you were a production assistant, did they tell you like you should have
Okay, so
a,
the opposite is I am going to give you advice that like let's assume somehow you get in networking with so I don't, it depends on where you're at to get your first job, but I would say any sort of, film networking, you're looking for fellow PAs, people that might have a chance of hiring you in the future. So assuming you have your first day as a PA, what I like to say is do not make a mark. It is absolutely the opposite that you think it would be the advice. Do not come in hot. Do not come in with your opinions. Show up early, show up where you're supposed to be, read all of the information that is given to you twice. If you can, bring a Sharpie, have a pen, be well prepared, like prepare like you're going on a very casual hiking trip. Bring a water bottle, like whatever it is, and then do not cause any trouble at all. If I know your name and it's your first day on the job, it is not a good sign, actually. It's the opposite.
But did anyone teach you this when you started, or did you just have to figure it out?
A lot of it is just like it is sink or swim. So some of it is I did have early on a couple people who like brought me to set, and I had a family member who works in the industry and allowed me to shadow him. But it was not like I talk to people and they're like, oh, yeah, I bring my kid to work and they have this like cute little day. No, no, we went at 3 a.m. crew call. We went early to breakfast. We stood in line. We like did all the things. And so there was some of that where I was able to observe. And what I learned is how important it is to spend your first day on set just observing. Find out how people interact. Listen to everything that they're doing. If you learn somebody's coffee order, don't tell them right away, but know it. Like, it is all those sorts of things. You're seeing how the pattern of each show runs because there are a lot of similarities show to show, but every show is a little bit different. How your first AD likes to run set is a little bit different. How your accounting department likes to do things is a little bit different. And that's one of the things I do on every single show. I go in and I introduce myself to the accounting department. I say, I don't know how you guys like to do it. So tell me, like, what is it that you guys like? What is your standards and procedures? And usually they have information I've read, you read their paperwork. But if you never know what to do, there's a way to ask without showing that you don't know what to do. And one is, how do you like it done?
How did you move? So from PA, what did you move to next?
I didn't follow a traditional trajectory ever. And part of that is because I did intern so much. So I had these kind of opportunities to fall into these other situations. So one of the things that I did, one of the first jobs that I had, actually, I was a producer's assistant. And I did a lot of assistant work. And then I PA'd to fill in the days. And I never wanted to be an AD though. So for me, getting my PA days and being an assistant director was not my trajectory. And so if that is something that you want to do, and that is actually, Elena, you were saying earlier about how do you know what kind of department you want to go into. And I think that, I mean, just being there on set and experiencing it is the only way, and just watching what people do and then going over and at the end of the day, when you've made your very quiet, small impression on whomever you've made, just going over to the wardrobe department and saying, "Hey, I'm really, really interested in costuming. Do you ever take on interns, or would you ever be willing to hire me for a day if you had a big costuming day? I just want to know more." And I feel like that is usually the way. People are usually flattered too. They're like, "Oh, I didn't even notice anyone noticed me." Uh, styling over here.
That's a really great idea, actually, because I think that as a production assistant, that is your entry level, intern or not, and you have to figure out.
Right? It is just taking any opportunity that you have, and then making the most out of it without pushing too hard. That I think is the hardest balance, because it is, I think that the advice that people don't tell you often enough is that if you want it too hard, people can smell it. Or hopefully, you know the job that you're expected to do, and then just doing it to the best of your ability. It's that day in, day out, slow and steady.
Yeah, I think that's true. What are you proud about, or what do you like to tell people, that you are? Because I know a lot of us film people don't like to, as crew people, unlike the actors, we don't like to talk about it too much.
It is weird because it's like what makes a good job and what makes a good project from the working side and from the viewing side just aren't the same, I feel like. Um, Pride is hard. It's more survival, like I survived that job. I feel like is what it comes down to. Um, there are like I did the pilot for Boardwalk Empire. And we pilots are usually somewhere between like 6 and 12 days, and we filmed for 35. And it was uphill both ways in the snow. Like it was just epic from all fronts, it felt like. And so I'm proud I made it through.
Yeah, well, I think that is a very true thing that people need to hear about, really and truly, because we've all been on the projects that I've been on projects that I am so proud of, and you will never see that movie. You will never see it. It never got released or whatever happened, right?
Okay, I was given a lot of advice. I was given a lot of feedback when I was going into this. So I did feel prepared in terms of having some idea of what I was going into. I think what most people don't realize is how hard it is. It's not just hard to get a job. It's not just hard to get a project going. It's not just hard to get the initial stages set up. It's physically and emotionally hard just to do a project. I think that people don't realize often how many hours go into any given day, what a week looks like. And then when you're 6 months into a project, that fatigue really hits in a whole new way. And you have to kind of like football mentality level dig deep and try to figure out how you can still get along with these people who you no longer trust and you no longer like, and a project you no longer care about if you ever did. And you start questioning your own reality. And there are jobs where I've asked people to prove that we aren't currently in purgatory, and they can't. So we all go get pizza and hope that the next day it's a little bit better. But it is just, it's hard. It's a long, grueling process with a lot of parties along the way.
Touche to that. I think that's really true. Really, really true. So like right now, I mean, I know that you're doing your own projects. Why don't you tell us a little bit, like, how are you able to, like, that was my dream, right? Like, I'm going to work on movies and do all these cool
Yeah.
projects, and then I'll be doing my own. Well, I can say that it didn't really pan out that way, that little fantasy exactly for me. But so I'm always the cheerleader to all my friends that are doing that. They AD'd a bunch of shows and now they're doing their short, and I'm right there helping them out, and I'm totally into it. So how was that possible, or isn't that what you're.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like okay, working on your own projects when you are working in this industry is really difficult, but it also can be easier. It is that double-edged sword. You're working, and so you have no free time to work on your own ideas and projects. So you really have to be dedicated to the idea of having this almost as a second job. And you're talking to people constantly. It's all about conversations and connections, and you never know where the next conversation will lead you. But what I think that you do have to have, or what really helps, is clarity and vision in terms of what you want to do. So, yes, I want to work on my own projects. Well, what's your own project? If you find yourself stuck in an elevator with Jerry Bruckheimer, what's your pitch? You know, if you get your opportunity, are you ready for it? And you don't have to be ready in, I don't know what being ready means necessarily. For each person, for each project, it could be something different. It could be having the book in your back pocket and saying like, oh, I really love this project. I don't, my script is somewhere. It's not, it's in development, but I have the book, I have the project. The more concrete you can make the ask and the pitch, the more likely it is to happen. This one friend who I worked with, he was a PA, and every day, every person he talked to, he would say, I want to get into post. He wanted to be an editor, and he'd go, I want to get in post. Do you know anybody in post? Do you have jobs in post? Can anybody? And I would be like, stop about post. But you know what? He's an editor now. Like, he got it. He made it happen. He works in post. He's got very good jobs. I think he even worked on West Side Story. Like, it's pretty impressive. And it's just because every conversation he had was about the same thing. But he was specific enough about what the ask was, but laid back enough about the pressure. So he always brought it up. And then they'd be like, I don't. And he'd be like, cool, what else is going on? And move on. Because they think that that is the other part of the knack. There's people who are like, but did I mention this? And you're like, you did. Now you have to move on. So you kind of have to find a new conversation, new way to have that same conversation rather than just pushing to push first pivot.
You don't want to be annoying. You just want to make sure everybody knows what you're wanting to do.
It's finding the right squeaky wheel. Like, you need to squeak. Sometimes you do need to be annoying. Right now I have so I have this project that I want to get out there and get working on. And so I have a script, I have a pitch deck, and I have a couple other supporting documents, just things that I made, mood boards for locations and things that are just kind of vibe. And I have sent this out to a lot of people, and one out of the first 10 that I sent it to, read the script unprompted. I sent it to them. The next day they wrote back, I loved it. It was great. Here's my feedback. 1 out of 10. And these are inner circle people who were like really excited to read it. And the other 10, one is actually like my ex-stepfather. And every time I call him, he's like, shit. And I'm like, okay, well, do it or don't, dude. So if you ever want to get people to not call you back, just send them a script.
It's so true.
I'll never call you back. They'll never call you again for anything. I even called my friend and I was like, hey, I wanted to know about drinks on Friday. And she was like, I didn't read it, okay? And I was like, okay, drinks though? Like, what's happening? So you have to be prepared for a lot of, I guess, rejection, but it's not even intended rejection. It's well-intentioned.
Absolutely. But you've got to it's hard to have the fortitude to keep plugging on.
You have to really want to do it. You have to want to do the project. You have to want to do every step of the process. You have to really kind of want to get into like, okay, do I like having the negotiation stage? And if I don't, how do I get back into it? I'm very ready to be done with this stage and just get to the making part, but not there yet. So
Well, do you, when you started your, like, where are you now? Are you feeling that the slow time has been good for this creating time? I mean, because really, even though we know there's films in all the major cities, making productions, it's nothing to the degree that we're normally used to. And I'm just curious, is that like some people are, sort of, oh my God, this is the worst. Everything's changed. They're, like, oh, the sky is falling. And then there's other people I know that are, sort of enjoying this and doing what you're doing and taking advantage of the people that they could never get a call into because.
Right. I do think that there are advantages. I think that there are going to be it's going to be really interesting to see the way that the landscape changes, with the way productions are being made, with the way companies are buying. and where things are being filmed, how AI supplements. I don't think it's going to replace everything, just like any new technology, everybody gets up in arms, but it definitely will have a lot of effect. Um, and I personally, it was like COVID, and then the strike really allowed me to take time in a way because I didn't have the option. I couldn't really work. I did one job in COVID and it was so hard. It was really wild. The different COVID protocols and then the changing protocols and just the different things that we had to do to keep our actors safe. Um, was pretty next level. So it'll be really interesting. But I think that there will always be movies made. There are always stories being made. I think that the way that we tell them might pivot. There might be more episodics on TikTok. I don't really know what the next gen looks like because I noticed that kids today they don't care about watching things on a television. So I think that the format is going to change inherently with that. If it doesn't look good on a small screen, what's kind of the point? So it'll change some of those big action movies, but we'll see.
Well, thanks you. I don't have any
Yes.
other questions. You gave us such great information. I so appreciate you and everything that you're sharing with us. I really do, because you brought up some points that we haven't, nobody's talked about yet. And to know that you're in production, it's just great to hear of that end of things, the
Yeah.
actual production of
It's
how
hard
long.
work, but that's exactly it. I guess my advice would be, or my advice and warning are interconnected. Prepare to be working really hard, prepare to do a lot of very hard work, and prepared for it to, well, not be easy. That's still the same, isn't it? Just it's hard.